Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Relationship Matters, Empowering Conversation. And I'm so glad if you are coming live and you're joining me live, just welcome. And I hope that you're going to be part of the conversation. And the reason I'm saying that is because my co-host, Chris, is in the middle between here and Calgary somewhere, and he was traveling today. We were hoping he'd make it in time, but unfortunately, he didn't. And so I'll be going solo this week, and then we'll check it out next week. We'll have Chris back, and we'll have another empowering conversation. So welcome. I'm glad you've joined, and if you're not watching this live, you've found this later on, welcome as well. I hope that this conversation today, I'm going to do a little bit of talking about a subject that is really tough for a lot of people. The title of this is, do you struggle trusting people? And you know what? A lot of people do. And I did for a long time when I was younger. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit. We called this the Easter edition because it's Good Friday, of course. And so happy Easter to everybody. Most of you know that I'm a follower of Jesus. So this is a very significant weekend that we celebrate the death and resurrection of him. And I don't, I'm not interested in the religious stuff. As you know, I'm very relational. And so I just love the relational story of this whole thing and of this whole weekend. And so anyway, I want to just say that. I want to say that because of what Jesus did, he made a promise and he followed through with that promise. He's trustworthy. And so that's why I have found such depth of faith in my life, is because of him keeping his promises in my life. And I know that's tough for some people. It really can be a struggle. We're 5 episodes into season 3. We're trying this new experiment with doing it live again. We did it the first year live, but I had a guest every week. And then this year I felt like to add a co-host and my good friend of over 30 years, Chris Dollinger, to jump on with me and to co-host and to see what kind of dynamic come out of it. And I hope you've been enjoying the first 5 episodes of the season. I find it's been very interesting. We've had a couple of guests on already. Last week, you noticed I was traveling last week, and so I had a pre-recorded interview with Gary and Molly Chupik, and what a great interview that was. What an empowering conversation. You've got to go back and look on that. Wherever you found this one, you can go scroll back and find that one, or just go to my YouTube channel and you can find it there. I tell you, it was a neurodiverse marriage. She has Asperger's and he doesn't. And we just got into all kinds of conversation about what that means and how they live that out. But there were so many principles that we extrapolated out of it because of everybody should, live that way. They have to go extra mile to understand each other and to connect at a deeper level. And so I found it fascinating. I hope you did as well. If you have anybody share that video with them. If you know somebody that has neurodiversity in their family, it could really help them. And so that was a great conversation. We had Mike Chisholm on, and we talked about, he's the host of HeCast, which is a men's mental health movement. And we had a great conversation with him. He's also a financial planner. So we talked a little bit about that, how finances impact relationships. And of course, the week before that, we had Karen Hackman on, and we talked to her about specifically about how marriage can be very under pressure because of the financial strain and the fact that many couples don't talk about it. They just want to ignore the problem, I guess. And it's hard to discuss. It causes fights, whatever the reason. It's just something a lot of people don't talk about. And so that's kind of been a recap. Chris and I, the first episode, just talked about our 30-something long year friendship, and that was awesome as well. And really enjoyed that conversation with him. And so, yeah, so that's kind of up till today. And so today's Good Friday. And we were going to kind of do a little recap and talk about, maybe banter a little bit over some of the things that stuck out to us through those interviews. And I just did that. So that is done. But then we were going to talk about trust, this whole thing of trust. I believe that many, many, many people have had trust breaches in their life where somebody's let them down. They've maybe said something they would do and didn't do it, and in the worst case scenario where somebody in authority has broken trust with you, or somebody that is close to you and important to you has broken trust, and it can be so destructive to relationships. It can be very, very difficult. And so I'm going to just teach on that. I don't know how long I'll go for here, but I want to talk about that today. Join the conversation by commenting if you are watching live here, 3 p.m. Friday, Good Friday. By all means, if you comment on whatever channel you're on now, some of the LinkedIn comments don't seem to come through, just to be aware of that. But any YouTube and Facebook ones definitely get through. So by all means, leave a comment, and it comes right into the studio here, and I can see it, share it, and talk about it. If you have a question, by all means, ask a question. But if you have something you want to add to what I'm saying, then I want to hear from you as well. That way we can actually make this an empowering conversation rather than just an empowering teaching. that works much better. But I know in my life that trust has been an issue. I had a real hard time trusting authority in my life because my dad was a person that was in authority. Now, just to be clear, he and I reconciled and had a great relationship. In the end, he's passed away now, but we had a great relationship. But in my early years, he was very busy. He was a pastor, so he was very busy with other people's problems, and often gave up that time to them. And so I remember as a kid, many times, like he would say, "Okay, I'm sorry, I've been so busy. I'm going to take you, to a hockey game, or I'm going to take you to this place or that place." And I remember as a kid sitting at the windowsill watching for him to come, and him never showing up. It was always, my mom would be telling me, "You got to go to bed. You got to go to bed." No, Dad said he's going to do this, and I never realized the impact of that until I was older, till I was later, maybe in my teens is when it really started showing up. That I found that I didn't trust people. I didn't trust what they had to say. I didn't trust them if that they had my best in mind, or that their promises would be carried out. And what that did was it actually made me untrustworthy as well, because I wouldn't trust, I would say things to get out of situations and then not follow through. So the very thing I feared, I actually became. And that's so often what happens to us in life, isn't it? The very things that I always say, you walk where you look. And so if you're looking at not being able to trust people or not being able to trust others all the time, then you actually become untrustworthy. And so this is a really sensitive subject and a painful one. But I want to give you some tips today on how to rebuild trust if it's been broken, or build trust if you haven't built trust. But I want to just say this to you. Nobody can force that trust for you to trust somebody. I often say forgiveness is a gift, but it's a gift that says, "I'll let you earn trust back." Trust is earned. Forgiveness is a gift. And so it starts with forgiveness. We need to forgive those that have broken trust with us. That's the first step towards rebuilding trust. And in the same context, we need to ask forgiveness if we've been the one that has broken trust. And that's really the first step. It's the hardest one. Forgiveness is not an easy subject. We could do, well, I actually did. If you look at last season, I did a whole teaching on forgiveness. So you can go back and watch last season. I can't remember what episode number it is, but I'll put it in the show notes later on. But it's like, it's really the first step towards trust, because trust is earned. We have to give opportunity for somebody to earn that trust. And so, I just want to say to you that if trust has been broken in your life, forgiveness is the first step, but then you can put boundaries in place. You can actually tell the loved one, "Hey, you're going to have to earn this trust back from me, and I'm going to give you that opportunity. I'm going to do my best to give you that opportunity." And it takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of communication to work through that. But here's the problem: if you don't trust anybody, it's very isolating. You put yourself behind the walls. You put walls up around your heart, and you put yourself behind those walls. And what happens is you end up being two things happen. One is you start getting labeled by the walls, and the second thing is you start to get trapped in those walls. And it's a very lonely existence when you don't trust anybody. Now, I'm here to tell you, people will always let you down. We're humans. There is no perfection in us. They'll always let you down. I found one of the reasons I came to faith, being Easter weekend, one of the reasons I came to faith is because because of what Jesus did. It's like he was trustworthy. He actually helped me trust him in that sense. When I looked at his life, the life that he led, and what he did for people, it was very easy for me to see. If I was going to believe in a God, I didn't want some cosmos God way out in the universe somewhere. I needed to know him personally. I wanted to know the character of the person. Because I had trust issues, I had to really know somebody before I would trust them. And so that was the beginning of my spiritual journey, was to actually try to discredit, to have God prove that he is trustworthy. And of course, obviously the result was, yes, he was in my life. And so what I'm saying with humans, with our horizontal relationships, it's the same thing. We have to give opportunity to build trust. But you got to know the difference between God, who is perfect, and humans who are not, is that we will always let you down. I'm sure I still let my wife down, my kids down at times. I'm sure I still have moments. But I want to talk today about this idea of trust. And so I even have some slides, if you can imagine that. So I want to just share a couple of things here. How important trust is. I believe it's a cornerstone pillar. Now, if you've been around me for any length of time, I wrote a book called Relationship Matters, and that book, first section is 5 pillars of a healthy foundation. So when you build a healthy foundation for your relationships, you need these 5 things. The first one and the cornerstone is trust. No relationship's going to survive without it. No relationship can flourish without trust. So it's the first pillar. Second one's communication. Now that's really important too, because bad communication can breach trust. The interesting thing about all 5 pillars is they all kind of work together, and they can also damage each other if they're not upheld. That's why you need all 5, and you need to be working on all 5. Relationship has to be intentional, and it's really important to do that. And so communication is important to building trust. The next one is authenticity. We have to be very real with who we are, and know who we are. We got to know ourselves to be able to be ourselves. And so it's really important to discover that, because it's hard to trust others when we can't trust ourselves. Does that make sense? You got to learn to trust yourself. And so you got to know your value. You got to know and build confidence in who you were created to be. And that was a big piece for me, is that authenticity. The third one is honesty. Nothing can break a trust faster than dishonesty. And often we don't even know why we, are dishonest at times, but it's usually to protect ourselves. It's usually because we're not trusting somebody. And so we tend to be dishonest to try and get our own way. And then the last one is honor. That to honor, the word honor means highly esteem. And so to honor one another requires trust. You can't honor somebody if you don't trust. If you don't trust anyone, you don't care how you treat them or what you say to them or do to them. And so it's really important to in order to honor somebody, you have to extend trust and be trustworthy for them to receive it. So it's really important. And so that is kind of where I want to start, is with that. So one of the ways that you build this trust, and I liken it like a bank account. Now, we've had 2 financial planners on in the last few weeks. And so let's think of that. If you're building wealth, if you want to have some money to be able to buy the things you want to buy, you need to have equity. That's the difference between what you owe and what you have in the bank. Equity is a good thing. You want to build wealth, you have to have lots of equity. In the same way, in a relationship, trust is built through a trust bank, by making deposits into that trust bank. By making deposits on a daily basis, you can build trust. And by the way, if trust has been broken, it's the best way to earn it back, is to be able to make trust deposits in the bank account that you can. It's just one of the ways that you can absolutely have a healthy relationship. And so you want to understand what builds trust, and what builds trust is building trust equity. It's the little things every day. It's not always the big things. Now, big withdrawals can happen and it can collapse the whole pillar. But if you make little deposits, and keep making them, you will have some to spend. Now, there's days when I mess up and I still make withdrawals. But if I've built trust equity with my wife, with my kids, with my coworkers, with the people that I rub shoulders with, I am able to then I'm able then to make that withdrawal by accident, and because I've had lots more deposits than withdrawals. If I make all withdrawals, no deposits, I go bankrupt in the real world, and so do I in trust. Vice versa. If I make good investment and I intentionally make deposits into the trust bank, I can then build trust. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? It sometimes we think that it's complicated, but it's really that simple. We just have to continue to make trust deposits. So I'm going to give you three things today, and then we're going to sign off. I'm going to give you three ways to build trust equity, to be able to make those deposits into the trust bank on a day by day basis, in the little ways and in big ways. But let's get into this. And if you're joining me and you want to ask a question or add in something that's been important to you in relationships, or for you to build trust, please make a comment and we'll have a conversation. I realize it's Good Friday. Maybe people won't be watching live. By the way, if you are watching this after it was live, you can still put a question in there. I watch all the comments and I'll answer, and we can have a conversation through the comment section in whatever you're watching this. So that's awesome too. So building trust equity requires intentional investment. So first and foremost, trust doesn't get built by accident. Now it can, I guess, you can have osmosis trust built, but it's always better when it's intentional investment. It requires you to know what investment is needed. So that's where communication comes in. You need to talk to those people around you that you work with, or that you live with, that you rub shoulders with. You need to ask them, you could even ask them, what kinds of things builds trust for you? What is important for you in building trust? And that really helps, because then you can do things with intention. It might be simply, I want you to think of me once in a while and bring me a coffee, or it might be, I like to acknowledge my emotions or acknowledge my feelings. It could be something as simple as that, but you have to ask the question to get the answer. It requires agreement on where to invest. So that's where the agreement comes in. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try my best, and I'm going to be much more attentive to this and help. And it really makes a big difference. And of course, it requires more deposits than withdrawals. So here's three of the specific trust builders. And this is really important. Transparency is number one, loyalty is number two, and fulfilling promises is number three. Those three things, if they're applied on a day-to-day basis, will build a really strong trust pillar, and it'll help you build the other pillars as well: the communication, the authenticity, the honesty, the honor, all get built up when you do these three things. So transparency, if you think of transparency, it's being real with who you are. It's being open hearted, if I could put it that way. Remember, every hidden thing erodes trust. But I like to see it another way too. If you take the word intimacy, if you want emotional intimacy, I'm not talking about physical intimacy, I'm talking about emotional intimacy with a friend, with coworkers, with whatever. Think of transparency as into me you see. It's being real with who you are. And when you're real with who you are, it builds trust, because I know what to expect. It took Sandy and I, my wife and I, years to get to that point where we were transparent enough. We know each other so well now, you can almost finish each other's thoughts and sentences. And the companionship level we have is at such a rich level because of that, because we have built trust all these years. We've been married 40 years. And it was amazing to be able to do that. It's being real with who you are. So it's that into me you see is being real with who you are. Like, I've still got things I got to work on. there's no perfection, folks. We really need to work on. There's always something to work on, and so I want just to say that it's also okay to to be uh, to be okay with who you're not. You can't be everything. You can't always, your personality is your personality. So if there's some things that you can't do or you're not good at, be okay with that. It's all right. Be relaxed about it. Just be chill. Understand that you're not always got everything that everybody needs. And then it's being gracious with who others are. So it's getting kind of putting on some graciousness in your life. You know, to be trustworthy, I think we need to be gracious. I think it helps us build trust with other people when we show some grace. What is grace? The word grace means unmerited favor. It means that they haven't had to earn that. In fact, might be even that you have to apply some mercy because maybe they blew it. Maybe they made a mistake, but you got to show some grace. You got to give them some grace to communicate by all means. Share what your heart is, share the pain and the hurt, be transparent. But you also got to realize by extending some grace, you might invite transparency by through somebody else that you're in relationship with. So that's really important to build relationship. We want to make sure that transparency is flowing. The next one is loyalty. Now, I believe there's three areas of loyalty. First one's to God for me because I'm a follower of God. But the second one is I get loyal to myself, and then also loyal to my family and loyal to the people that I'm in relationship with. Loyalty is so important. There's an old proverb that says, "Never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep into your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people, and you will earn a good reputation." So when we are loyal, it creates a fantastic thing. Now, one of the biggest trust breachers is disloyalty. You might have experienced that yourself. I have, and it's painful. It's very painful. But as painful as loyalty is, all the more is it's positive when we are loyal. So when we have disloyalty and it's painful, take that, multiply it by a million, and that's what it does when you're loyal and you have loyalty. My wife doesn't have to worry about me uh, stepping out on her. She doesn't have to wonder where I am. She doesn't have to, because I've been loyal to her for 40 years. I've been loyal. I'm loyal to my kids. They know if they call and they need me, I'm there. My friends know that I'm loyal to them. I go so far as if I have a good relationship with a company, an organization, I'm loyal to them because they were loyal to me. But when they haven't been loyal, when there isn't loyalty there, there's pain, and it's very painful, and sometimes that can really hurt. So loyalty is super important. If we break that proverb down, it simply means loyalty is an act of kindness. It's just an act of kindness. It's not based on the merits of another person. It's actually something that's in your heart. It's written deep within your heart. So it's seen by others, which makes you trustworthy. And when you are trustworthy, you'll find people will become more trusting in you. They'll become more trustworthy for you. That's what happens when you walk in loyalty and you walk in trustworthiness. People will be able to trust you, and you'll be able to trust them more because of that. Now, some people will push back here and say, hang on, Mark. In my life, I got taken advantage of when I was loyal. I got taken advantage of when I extended trust. They took advantage of that. I want to just clarify something very important here is that loyalty is not naivety. Being trustworthy is not being naive. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about don't cast pearl before swine. In other words, I think that it's important not to uh, have blind faith when it comes to being loyal, trustworthy. We're not allowed to judge the people's heart, but we are allowed to judge the fruit. So, for example, if you have somebody in your life that has not been loyal to people around them, haven't been loyal to you, breached trust multiple times, it's perfectly okay to put a boundary up. You don't just keep going back. Being loyal doesn't make you a doormat. In fact, I think when you're truly loyal, authentically loyal, when the authenticity pillar is in action, you actually won't be a pushover. You actually have backbone. I'm not a pushover, but I'm very loyal. I'm fiercely loyal for the people I love. And it doesn't mean that I don't get taken advantage of sometimes, but it means that I'm loyal because of me, not because of them. So even if they do take advantage, I don't feel like I'm destroyed because I know, hey, that's who I am. I'm not changing who I am for someone else. But they've breached trust now, so I am going to put a boundary up. I have the confidence and the courage to put a boundary up when it's been abused. So I just wanted a little caveat there, right? I believe that it's part of your identity. So when loyalty is part of your identity, it really builds that authenticity part. I think then that's when you have the confidence and the strength to do that. It produces favor and therefore gives you a good reputation of being trustworthy. People can trust you, and that's so important. And I think it's harder for people to be, um, you know, to take advantage of you when you're trustworthy. It might seem silly. I don't think that sometimes when we've been taken advantage of, it's actually not because we were loyal or we were trustworthy or trusting. It was more just because we were naive or we were trying to get somebody to like us. And so we probably gave part of ourselves away that we weren't supposed to, maybe too quickly. We didn't let them earn the trust first. I think that's really important to understand. Number 3, and this I'll finish up with this. Number 3 is fulfilling promises. Oh man, nothing's gonna get you in more trouble than when you don't fulfill promises. That is for sure. You've got to be able to keep your promises. In other words, mean what you say and say what you mean. You've got that. Nothing will break trust quicker, and especially in the day-to-day life. Hey, honey, can you take the garbage out? Oh, sure, yeah. And then like next day, garbage isn't out yet. Can you take the garbage out? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll get to it. And you don't. That breaches trust. That takes a withdrawal out of the trust bank. And if it's done enough, it can damage a relationship severely. Because if I can't trust somebody to do what they say they're going to do in that moment, how can I trust them to commit to the bigger picture, to something that's really important if they haven't shown it in the little things? How do I trust them with the big things? And so it's really important that we are people of our word, that we understand. I believe that keeping promises fosters dependability. And so we can actually be dependable when we keep our word. Broken promises undermine your integrity. That it's so true. It undermines your integrity. Now I got Aunt Martha there. I don't know who she really is. I just call her Aunt Martha. On my slide there, you can see it with her hands out. Uh, Integrity is this. Integrity is who I say I am and who I actually am. What I say I'll do, what I actually do. When those are together, I have full integrity. I absolutely have integrity. That's my integrity. So I am who I am. Doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean I don't have hard days. But I'm pretty much who I am. If I allow something to come between that, if I'm saying I'm something and I'm not, if I'm not keeping my promises, it creates what I call an integrity gap. So you break it open a little bit, and there's an integrity gap. The wider that gap is, the less integrity you have. And I think that to be trustworthy and to be able to trust others, we got to walk in integrity. I think it's a huge piece to this. Keeping promises is an act of integrity. And I think it's really important for us to understand that integrity uh, really is important to building trust and being trustworthy. And so integrity also is a great way. By the way, all the things I'm telling you are great early warning signs if you pay attention to somebody new. If you're in a relationship with somebody new and you see that they're not transparent and you see that they're not loyal to anybody, you see that they don't keep their promises. They say they'll be there at 6 to pick you up and they show up at 7. Those are all red flags. Those are all signs to say this person I better be cautious with. Maybe they're not a safe person for me to go into a relationship with. And that's really important. It can protect a lot of your heart in a very healthy way. It can keep you from a lot of harm. Instead of putting walls up around your heart that keep you trapped inside, just watch for people to walk out the principles, the 5 pillars, for example. If they are trustworthy, do they communicate well? Are they authentic? Are they honest? Do they treat others with honor? You ask those simple questions, you'll get a pretty clear picture quickly. And then you can actually put boundaries up. And depending on the type of relationship, you can remove it completely, or you can at least communicate and say, hey, this isn't okay. Hope that made sense for you. Unfulfilled promises undermine your word. So when you don't fulfill them, it undermines you making a withdrawal. When you fulfill your promise, you make a deposit into the trust bank. When you don't, you make a withdrawal. It's that simple. It's that simple, folks. So I think that that is really important information. So remember, daily building trust, make sure you're transparent, be open hearted. Make sure that you are loyal, that that loyalty shines through. By the way, loyalty uh, observed by children in their parents also builds great character in the kids. When they see you being loyal to one another as mom and dad, when they see you being loyal to even family members or friends, or even companies, if you're loyal to others, they will see that loyalty. It makes them feel secure. It actually fosters, connection. It's really important to understand that um, loyalty fosters trustworthiness, and so it's really good when it's observed. It's fantastic, and so yeah. So I hope this has helped. Nobody's asked questions. I realize it's Good Friday. Everybody's probably busy, but even if you watch this later, please make sure you comment and ask questions in there. This, by the way, comes out of a teaching that I do. And in my, um, I have a video series that you can buy behind on my website, markgordon.ca. If you actually look at what I've just put up on the screen there, you /courses/ relationship matters. You can actually take it to 7 video series, and this trust teaching is in there along with all the pillars. I teach on each of them. You get download booklets, download to do the worksheets and the work on it. It is a fantastic tool for families because it's only 20-minute videos. Then you can have discussion and work on the workbooks. And it is fantastic, folks. And I really encourage you to go to my website and buy it. It's only $79. Not a huge amount, but it's well worth it. It'll be transformative to you. And if you don't have $79 and you're concerned about that, by all means, you can just go to my website and you can go /relationship-matters, and that you'll get my book. So, but if you just go to markgordon.ca, you'll find all of this, and you can actually go and get my book, or you can get this video series. The video series is great also for small groups. So if you have a few friends or a family, maybe you have adult kids and their families, what a great activity. Do 7 weeks together, like a home group, and just watch a video and then discuss. I think it could be life changing for you. So that's my little talk on trust. I think I'll knock off there. Next week we'll be back with Chris, and we'll be tackling another subject, and maybe we'll even revisit this one, and he can ask questions when he watches this. He might have some pushback on me about some of the things I said, and we can have a good lively discussion about it. And in the meantime, have a great Easter. Uh, Listen, I want to just ask you if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be fantastic, and hit the bell, because I really want to start increasing the subscribers. And I noticed that a lot of people watch it and aren't subscribers yet. So if you could subscribe, because I also put other stuff up there, not just the podcast. There's other videos that maybe I'm speaking somewhere, and I'll put it up there. And there's a couple of there's lots of good content there. So make sure you subscribe to that and hit the bell. I would appreciate it. It would help me out a lot. And yeah, and you can also subscribe on my website, and you'll hear about things coming up. And that's going to get a lot more active in the next little while. But I just really appreciate y'all. Thank you for joining me this week on Relationship Matters. And I hope you have a fantastic Easter weekend. And we will see you next Friday at 3 p.m.